2023 so far has definitely been the year of the open ear sports earbud. We've had a new release from Shokz recently. You've already seen reviews on this channel of some of the Halo, Tronsmart and Soundbeats products in this space. And today I'm going to be taking you through a review of one of the hottest reviewed open ear sports buds on the market from OneOdio. But first, I want to say a big thank you to all of you in particular who've subscribed over the last few months. I had a target this year of making it to 1,000 subscribers and we've got there around 6 months early. So a big thank you to all of you. And news of a competition which is coming up. It's going to be sponsored by Soundbeats, so it'll be in one of the future reviews, possibly the next one. But in the meantime, I'm giving away a set of Soundcore P2i earbuds to my 1000th subscriber. So Doomguy4348, congratulations. You're going to get a set of those Soundcore buds winging their way in the post to you. And stay tuned as well for the next review. As I said, it's going to be a Soundbeats review and you'll have the opportunity to pick up even more prizes. So once again, a big thank you for subscribing. That competition was also coinciding with my 100th review on HeadFi, and already we're kicking on to I think 102 or 103 with this one. It's the OpenRock Pro from OneOdio. Now for me, I'm out on the bike or out for a run or at the gym pretty much every day, and I don't always like to use TWS because they feel stuffy in my ears, and I like the safety factor as well of being able to hear my surroundings very clearly without having to reach and switch active noise cancellation off. Now this is OneAudio's offering. It's been on the market a few months now and it's been getting rave reviews, so I was really keen to take a look at them. They've got some interesting features including 16.2mm dynamic drivers. They're supporting the AptX codec courtesy of that Qualcomm chip. They're IPX5 water resistant and they've got massive battery life. These normally retail at £119.99, but on the 11th and 12th of July for Prime Day, OneAudio are running these at a special offer of £89.99. The link is in the comments section below. Whilst that price is super competitive as far as open ears go, it is still a lot of money to be spending on your earbuds. So let's have a look and see if they represent value for money, starting with the unboxing, which as always with OneAudio is a reasonably polished affair. On the front you're getting a very clear image of how the earbuds look, and on the bottom you're getting a long list of the use cases which OneAudio intended with this release. On the back you've got some of those key parameters including the mammoth battery life and the IPX5 water resistance rating. The yellow and black enclosure has a hint of Poco about it. Other than a charge cable, the list of accessories here is pretty slim. You've got your user manual which comes in 9 different languages: English, Chinese, French, German, Russian, Spanish, Italian, Portuguese and Polish. Everything in the manuals is very clear and they've used diagrams to good effect, particularly with the how to wear guide which comes separate from the user manual. For getting them up and running quickly, this is very useful. When it comes to the manual, well, I can't really comment on those other languages, but in terms of the English section, it's very clear and they're using diagrams to very good effect. The section which goes through the controls and the battery display in particular is very well represented. These are two of the better implemented features on the OpenRock Pro, so it's good to have that explained in the manual. And in case you didn't have enough already, there is a USB Type-C charge cable for the case. There's no wireless charging on this model. As I said in the intro, I've tried a few different releases from different manufacturers and nobody has really got the charge case right with a consistent design that you can say, yep, that definitely works. As a result, pretty much every release has tried to do their own thing, and OneAudio's unique attempt is another example of that. The black plastic clamshell style design even looks a little bit like a shell, with the lined outer edges adding a bit of friction to prevent it slipping out of your hand. There's no friction on the hinge until you get it to full extension where it has a double latch effect. That means if you shake it hard enough, you might find the hinge will slam shut unless you've got it extended to that fully open level. Let's not beat about the bush, the case is a bit of a beast. It's 7 centimeters wide by 5 centimeters in depth and 4 in height. It's just shy of 90 grams fully loaded. Put it this way, you won't be taking this case out with you on a run unless you want it to be a weighted one. The case is operated with the narrow side facing you. You've got plenty of room to unhook those earbuds from the case, and if you do use the adjustments on top of each bud, then there's plenty of wiggle room within the box to suit. In defense of the OpenRock Pro case, it's definitely durable, it's hard wearing, and it's actually quite reasonable to use. It functions in a very intuitive way, but that lack of portability could be a problem for you, even though they do offer, as a paid added extra, a silicone sleeve which acts as a kind of travel case. That would normally be a no-go for me, but OneOdio facilitated it through a very long battery life and the ability to switch the buds off by holding down those physical buttons for a few seconds. That means that the travel case is actually quite practicable. This is very similar to what some other vendors have done, and it actually works out quite well. On the bottom of the case you've got your USB-C socket, and there's an LED there which gives you an indication of the battery level, both when you're charging and when not. When charging you'll get a red pulse when it's below 20%, a red and green simultaneous pulse between 21 and 50%, it pulses green when you're between 51 and 99, and then it's solid green when you're fully charged. When it's not charging, you can use the multifunction button to tell you roughly how much charge you've got remaining in the case. Again, this is a very nice feature. And now we're on to the ergonomics, the design and the fit. And if you can get over that slightly 80s look to the appearance, you're getting a very comfortable and a very stable ear hooked style design that isn't going to pop out of your ear despite the wide variety of different activities which OneOdio advertise on the box. They come in 3 color variations, very 80s-esque matte black and grey, a pearlescent white which I haven't actually seen on the market yet, and a silver and red. That was just a little bit too flashy for me, so I plumped for the black and grey. They measure 57mm at their widest and around 47mm in height and weigh 12.8 grams. That may sound heavy, but it's identical to the OLED dance equivalent and only slightly heavier than the Halo Per 3 buds. For my slightly larger than average size ears, they wear pretty well. Despite being predominantly plastic, there is a rubberized area at the top. This allows you to reposition the earbud and it does stay in that configuration, and that will bring you ideally better comfort and better audio performance. With these kind of designs where you've got the driver set back a little bit, every millimeter or even fraction of a millimeter difference that it can make is going to have an impact on how the sound is delivered. That's the theory. How is it in practice? Well, once you've got the case open, you've got that micro adjustment where it will hold in place. It also allows you to move it ever so slightly so you can position it above your ears so you can hook it on nice and easily. Once you've done that, reposition the driver ever so slightly so it's pointing towards your ear canal so you can get that optimal audio performance, and away you go. Now, I did wonder beforehand if the predominant use of hard plastic would result in the buds wearing a bit bulky or looking a tad intrusive, but this isn't the case at all. My slightly larger than average size ears, they pass the shake test quite comfortably. Once you've got them in the optimal position, they really don't move at all. I tested them out doing all sorts of exercises, from HIIT to running to taking them out on the bike, where even when you're adding a helmet and glasses into the mix, they remain very comfortable and very stable. They use physical buttons rather than touch controls, which is definitely a big benefit. Pressing the buttons once operates play and pause. Pressing the left ear twice turns the volume down and the right ear twice turns it up, and you progress tracks by holding the buttons down for a couple of seconds. These tactile buttons are a real godsend compared to the nightmare that is touch controls when you're trying to run or cycle. So onto the audio now, and OneOdio have combined 16.2mm dynamic drivers, use of the AptX codec and their TubeBass technology, and the result is, by open ear standards, pretty impressive. Now, with in-ear headphones and TWS, maybe the target for the manufacturers is something like the Harman target in terms of their tuning, but there's different considerations in play when it comes to open ear designs. Firstly, the driver is set back quite a bit compared with having a traditional in-ear or an IEM design, as we said. Secondly, there will be a slight discrepancy in how the earbuds are worn between each individual. And thirdly, there's the environmental considerations. So you're not really going to be tuning for a quiet room, because with sports buds you'll tend to be wearing them in the outdoors where you've got a variety of different sounds infiltrating your listening experience, but also you kind of want to be able to hear those things at the same time. So for vendors bringing a product like this to the market, the design brief is to bring loudness. First and foremost, you want that volume to be enough to be able to hear it over and above the sound of the wind and other things that you've got going on in the scene. Secondly, you don't want the trebles to be too spiky or too coarse, because you're really going to be using these for long periods of time. If you're out for a long run, a 10k or maybe even a half marathon, you want the sound to be at least palatable. You don't want your ears to be ringing at the end of the run. And thirdly, you've got the difficulty of getting sufficient bass and weight to the lower frequencies across to the user, with that drawback, as we've already mentioned, of having the driver set a little bit further back. So these are difficult design considerations that the vendors have to get over. For me, I think that OneOdio have done a really good job of balancing all those considerations. They're giving you a boosted bass, certainly by open ear standards. It's a V-shaped sound signature with slightly muted vocals and harmonics, but with a warmer tone. Uncharacteristically for open ear designs, as we said, you've got quite a bit of oomph to kick drums, and those darker tones to synths in electronic music come across emphatically. The trebles are set back a little bit, but as I said, for me this is a big benefit because you don't get any sharpness or any coarseness to any of your percussion. I tested with a wide variety of different music styles, including opera and classical, where you've got a bunch of different instruments entering the arrangement from all different directions, and I have to say I was quite impressed by the staging, certainly from the perspective of this style of earbud. Whilst, as I said, the treble is definitely a little bit more reserved on this model, it still didn't detract from the impact of brass instruments, for example, and also the attack to kick drums if you're listening to electronic music, house music and techno, etc. That's definitely still there. But whilst it is a little bit muted, you still got good clarity to your orchestral elements. There's certainly no fatigue on your higher volumes, and those high volumes might be necessary. I tested these out near to Gatwick Airport in the UK, where you've got a mixture of different sounds from planes, trains and automobiles trying to infiltrate your audio experience. And I did have to top the volume out at 100% to make sure I could hear everything, and even then I didn't quite catch every word of my podcast. For the average user, you're probably not going to get that problem, and truth be told, I've noticed this problem with every open earbud which I've tested so far, so OneOdio are not alone in that respect. Overall, I really like the default sound signature. It's perhaps not quite got the clarity that something like the Ola Dance has, but it certainly has the best bass response and the fullest lower frequency of any of the open earbuds which I've tested so far. So now onto call quality, and before we move into the call samples, one of the things which I found really useful about the OpenRock Pro is the ability to control the volume of the call using the physical buttons while you're on the call itself. I've had this many times with earbuds where I've tried to initiate the touch controls and it's unfortunately cut the call off. And that's even if it works at all. Now, if you're on a bike ride or a run and you don't necessarily have access to your phone, which might be packed away in your bag or maybe on your arm, then having the ability to control that volume during your call is a real godsend. Now we're moving on to the call samples, of which there's one in a busy coffee shop. So that's intended to replicate what you would expect if you're in a busy coffee shop or a shopping center, school corridor, something like that. And there's a busy outdoor scene too. What we're trying to replicate there is what you can expect either when you're out for a run or a bike ride, or if you're using them on the daily commute. But first, let's have a listen to how they sound when you've got absolutely nothing going on in the scene whatsoever. Let's say you've been able to reduce all of your ambient sounds around you because you've got to make or take an important call at home. And this time we're testing what the OpenRock sound like in a busy indoor environment. So we've got a real mixture of sounds which are really getting in the way of your voice call, like the noise of the baristas making coffee. You've got nearby conversations going on around you, you've got the tableware clanging, and you've got a little bit of background noise as well, background music. So this is what your caller can expect at the other end of the line. They're sports buds, they're not really designed for phone calls, but still interested to hear how they perform on your calls if you're out for a run and you want to duck into a cafe and make some calls. Certainly doesn't very often happen for me, but it could for you. So this is what they're going to sound like in that environment. And if you're interested in earbuds for voice calls specifically, do check out my 2023 call quality test, the first of which is actually in this very coffee shop. So you can hear out all the different earbuds in that sub $100 category perform in comparison. So this time around we are testing the OneOdio OpenRock Pro for voice calls in an outdoor environment. And what we're trying to do here is replicate what you can expect on the daily commute. So I'm walking, so you've got that motion. I've got various different vehicles flying past me. I'm roundabout here in a reasonably busy UK city at rush hour. We've got a little bit of wind coming through as well from the UK summer conditions. So we're trying to replicate what it would be like, as I said, on the daily commute when you're walking into school, when you're walking into college, work, the train station, etc. And just as I finished, that was right on cue. We got a gust of wind coming through, so you can hear exactly what they sound like on your voice calls and voice notes when you've got wind added to the elements as well.
So what do you think of the call samples? I think certainly performs better outdoors compared to indoors, but if we're looking for the use case of the earbuds, which is a sports bud and it's intended to be used while you're out for a run and a bike ride, I would rather that the noise reduction is effective at getting rid of wind and engine noises over and above other conversations, indistinct chatter which are going on around me. It seems to be that trade-off when it comes to mic quality, so I think OneOdio have got the balance right here.
And now we move on to battery life, and despite not getting the 19 hours advertised, I still easily got over the 15-hour mark using the AptX codec, around 95% volume and taking quite a few calls. This is really impressive, smashes the Ola Dance and almost doubles the Halo Per3 buds and some of the other competitors. So battery life definitely a strong point here. You've got the quick charge feature where you can get an additional 1 hour playtime from 5 minutes in the case, and the case gives you a total of 2.5 times the single use playtime, so I reckon you could get around 33 hours in total. This is really impressive market leading stuff.
So a few considerations when it comes to the OpenRock Pro, and maybe some drawbacks as well that you should take into account when looking at purchasing them. They're using the Qualcomm QCC3040 chipset. It's a very reliable chipset which we've seen in various different releases, and we see it quite often in the sports buds as well. It's known for giving a very good stability. It's Bluetooth 5.2 ready, and I didn't have any problems whatsoever when taking it out with my Sony Xperia 1. As I mentioned, you've got the aptX AAC and SBC codecs. Latency is very good, certainly when it comes to watching videos. When it comes to gaming, if you're a serious gamer, it will probably be a little bit too much latency for you. I don't think that was really the intention of these buds, and as a result you don't get any dedicated gaming mode. You also don't have any app support in which to be able to trigger any of these additional features, so remapping the buttons and adjusting the EQ isn't something that you can do with this model. Now remember, if you're on Android, you've always got the ability to use a third-party app, something like Wavelet, but if you're on iOS then you're stuck with the default sound signature. That isn't a problem because the sound is very good out of the box, but for some people, if you do like a little bit more control, then this is something to bear in mind. Another thing which hasn't been included is multi-point connectivity, but again I can't think of too many scenarios where if you're using them in the intended use case as a sports bud, then that is going to come in useful to you. It can even sometimes be a hindrance where you might have your laptop in your bag and you're using them cycling on the way to work, and it stays connected to your laptop and then drains the battery of the device accordingly.
There's no in-ear detection. Again, that's not really a problem for me because the design
facilitates the ability to hear your surroundings, so there isn't really the requirement to take them off, and you probably wouldn't want to do that mid long bike ride or mid run, because then you're going to have to fiddle around trying to get it right sat on your ear again. But for some people, if you do like having that facility, you don't get it with the OpenRock Pro, so just bear this in mind. But those minor quibbles aside, I was really impressed with the OpenRock Pro. You're getting good sound and probably the fullest sounding open earbud, as I said, which I've tried so far. The ergonomics and the design are great if you can get over that kind of 80s Bluetooth headset look. The flexibility in the ear hook and the fact that they don't protrude out of your ears and they wear really well, certainly for my big ears, is a big plus point. That charge case, perhaps it is a little bit large, but it does facilitate that excellent battery life, and the battery life here is the star of the show. The 15 hours plus with my real life testing is one of the best in class. In terms of the price, well, for me it's a little bit high. I'm used to reviewing earbuds which are pretty much down that bottom end of the price spectrum, so make sure you keep an eye out for some deals, especially around Prime Day. I've included some links in the comment section below where you'll be able to get a heavily discounted price, and I think around that £90 mark they're probably the best you can get currently in 2023 when you're balancing that price performance parity. If you're interested in buying sports earbuds, do check out my sports headphones playlist. I'll be adding more to that in due course, including the Oladance, and next up the Soundpeats Wings 2. Probably the lowest cost option so far. Thanks again for watching and for subscribing. It's ReganCipher signing off.